The Simpson family is playing Scrabble in the living room in an effort to build Bart's vocabulary for his aptitude test the next day at school. Bart, however, hates the game, so he ends it when he cheats and makes up an imaginary word, Quijibo, before he leaves. Homer roughly grabs Bart and accuses him of cheating. He then forces him to define Quijibo. Bart eventually defines it as a big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin. Marge adds minor detail to the definition of Quijibo and a short temper. Unfortunately, this causes Homer to become instantly angry and chase Bart out of the room as Bart replies, Quijibo on the loose. The next day before class, in the schoolyard, Bart is spray painting graffiti that defames Principal Skinner on the school building. Principal Skinner is watching the kids on the playground. Martin Prince, the school genius, tattles about the graffiti. Milhouse, one of Bart's friends, sees Martin informing Skinner and warns Bart. Skinner arrives where Bart, Milhouse, and two more children are feigning their involvement, and he then checks each of their hands, but Bart is caught red-handed. Skinner orders Bart to see him after school. As the children file into class, Martin encounters Bart in the classroom, explaining that he feels apologetic for Bart and merely was attempting to prevent the discretion of the school. But Bart rebuffs Martin by saying, "Eat my shorts!" Mrs. Krabappel hands out aptitude tests to everyone. When she instructs the class on taking the timed intelligence test, Martin raises his hand and reminds her that Bart is supposed to face the window during any test so he can't cheat. A grumbling Bart turns his desk to face the window, and the test begins. In an attempt to figure out a lengthy math word problem, Bart tries to quietly read the problem so he can solve it. Mrs. Krabappel reminds him for visualization instead. The visualization turns into a daydream, and when Bart finally comes back to reality, Martin announces that he has finished a test already. Mrs. Krabappel allows Martin to go outside to read a book during the remainder of the testing period, while Bart is still taking his test. He looks out the window to see a smug Martin sticking his tongue out at him. In retaliation, Bart sticks his tongue out and makes faces back at Martin after Martin does the same. Mrs. Krabappel spots Bart making faces and looks out the window to see what Bart is looking at. While her back is turned, Bart, who is seated at the front of the class, reaches over to Mrs. Krabappel's desk and steals Martin's test, replaces Martin's name with his own, and then puts the test back on her desk. Bart then quickly fills out random answers on his own test, and then writes Martin's name at the top and turns it in. Later, after school, Marge and Homer are called to Principal Skinner's office for a meeting about Bart's behavior at school. Skinner informs Marge and Homer about Bart's graffiti from earlier that morning. As he reaches for Bart's rather extensive permanent record and is about to suggest something along the lines of expulsion for Bart, his secretary buzzes in and says that Dr. J. Lauren Pryor, the school counselor, is waiting to see him. Dr. Pryor walks in on that meeting and surprises everyone, who tells him that Bart is a gifted child, and according to the aptitude test from earlier, Bart has an IQ of 216. Dr. Pryor suggests that Bart's history of bad behavior stems from a lack of interest in his schoolwork due to the fact that it's too easy for him. Skinner wants Bart retested, but when Dr. Pryor suggests moving Bart to a school for gifted children, Skinner jumps on board with the idea, and Bart quickly agrees when he hears the school doesn't have much structure, that you get to make your own rules. Dr. Pryor hands Bart some paperwork for the gifted children's school, and he, Homer, and Marge leave the meeting stunned. The next morning at the breakfast table, Marge and Homer hover around the new genius child, and Homer tells Lisa to start eating what Bart eats for breakfast so she can become genius too. However, Lisa is not fooled by Bart and knows that he still is just a dimwit. After breakfast, Homer takes Bart to the Enriched Learning Center for gifted children. Once inside the school, they find Bart's class, and after peeking in, they see that all the boys are wearing ties. So Homer gives Bart the tie he is wearing, and he gives Bart a little pep talk about his first day at the new school and shoves him in the classroom door. Once inside the class, Miss Mellon, the teacher, introduces herself and the new classmates to Bart and shows him around the classroom. She tells Bart about the independent learning, that the only rule for him is to make his own rules. Class begins with a debate on the topic of free will and the paradoxes that it creates. Bart struggles to understand the discussion. Later, at lunch, Bart's classmates realize that Bart isn't really that smart when he accepts their ridiculously uneven trade offers. For example, 1,000 pickled trays of milk for 4 gills worth. A gill is much larger than a pickle tree. A dejected Bart walks away from the lunch table as the other kids laugh at him. After school, Bart relaxes in his room when Homer walks in to see about Bart's first day at the new school. Homer suggests they all go out for frosty chocolate milkshakes, and Bart agrees. Just then, Marge walks by and tells Homer and Bart that she bought tickets to the opera in an effort to try to help nurture Bart's brain. Later during the opera, a bored and impatient Homer and Bart goof off and cut each other up, even though they are continually shushed by an upset Marge. The next day at school, Bart feels even more stupid and left out when he can't understand a calculus problem on the chalkboard. Later, as a sad Bart walks home from school, he passes by the playground of his old school where Richard, Lewis, and Milhouse are shooting marbles. When Bart greets them and tries to talk to them, they treat him like a nerd, call him names, and tell him to get lost. Later at dinner, a depressed Bart eats. Marge reminds everyone that he can't be late for the film festival that she bought tickets for as another way to nurture Bart's brain. Bart is reluctant to go to the festival, and Homer tells him they don't have to. Just as Bart is about to tell Homer what is on his mind and confess about the false IQ test, Homer insists on going outside to play catch. After playing catch, Bart sees how much being a genius means to Homer and chooses not to confess about what he has done, out of fear in disappointing him. The next day at the Gifted Children's School, while performing a chemistry experiment, Bart accidentally causes an explosion, which results in green goo everywhere. Later at Dr. Pryor's office, a green-stained Bart meets with Dr. Pryor. They discuss the reasoning behind his recent failings at the new school, and Dr. Pryor thinks that once again, Bart isn't being challenged enough, while Bart suggests that he go back to Springfield Elementary. When Dr. Pryor wants to know why, Bart makes up an excuse and tells Dr. Pryor he would like to go undercover and study regular kids in their school environment to see what makes them tick. Dr. Pryor agrees and tells Bart to write up a proposal to present to Principal Skinner while he goes to talk to him. Bart struggles to write a proposal, instead changes his mind and writes his confession. When Dr. Pryor comes back in the office and reads Bart's confession, he suddenly realizes that Bart misspelled confession. Later at home, a still green-stained Bart greets his parents, and Homer offers to give Bart a turpentine bath to wash off the green. Out in the backyard, as Homer gives Bart a bath, Bart confesses about cheating on the aptitude test and tells Homer that he loves him and that he has enjoyed the extra attention from being a genius. He tells Homer that he doesn't think something that has brought them closer than they ever were before could be bad. But this angers Homer, and he chases Bart out of the tub. They're choking him for telling him that, as Lisa declares that Bart has become stupid again. Fortunately, Bart is too fast for Homer and runs into his bedroom and locks the door. Then Homer pounds on Bart's door and tries to coax him to come out, claiming he can't hug and kiss him. Bart claims that while he might not be a genius, he's not that stupid to fall for something like that. Realizing that he cannot fool Bart into coming out, an angry Homer pounds on Bart's door to no avail, as everything is back to normal at the Simpsons house.